Hello friends and welcome to Step Up Academy. So we are continuing with our geography optional paper analysis. In my first video, I have already covered question number 1A to 1E. So I covered 5 questions. Question number 1 I have covered in my first video. Today we'll be talking about the next questions, question 2, 3 and 4. Okay. So as I've already explained you the approach with respect to writing geography optional answers. Okay, in your every answer there should be some geographer's name, there should be some theories included into your answers. Okay, then there should be some diagrams included into your answers. You may write in paragraph format, or you may even write in this point wise format. See, someone did ask me last time, sir, optional paper hai, should I write the answer in paragraph format? Yes, if I talk about, if you're writing theories, if you're asked some theories, for example, like this question, continental drift theory of Alfred Wegener, in this case, you can write your answer in paragraph format as well. But just ensure that the paragraphs are not too lengthy. Okay, paragraph should not be too much lengthy. You can write in point format as well, but in optional paper I would suggest paragraph format is fine, but the paragraph should not be too much lengthy. And someone also asked in the last video that when I'll be covering the option paper 2 as well. Rest assured, as soon as we complete our paper 1, I'll be moving to optional paper 2 as well. Okay, so we'll move to the question answers directly. So second 2A question was, Alfred critically examined the geographical account of continental drift theory of Alfred Wegener. Again, being a state services examination, this is a straightforward question. Okay, they haven't asked some tricky way. They've simply asked critical examination. And wherever geography optional, wherever classes you have covered in, definitely that faculty will definitely cover the critical examination or the critical evaluation of this continental drift theory. Even in my lectures, definitely I've covered in GS as well. So optional में तो cover कर ही होगा. So let's start with the introduction. Alfred Wegener gave the theory in 1912. Okay, so this was the time when he said that there was a supercontinent, that is the Pangaea, which began to fragment around 200 million years ago. There was a supercontinent called as the Pangaea, and over a period of time, it began to got fragmented and the continents began to move apart. Now, here it has asked critical examination. So, in the examination hall, what happens? We suddenly, directly after reading critical examination, we directly jump on criticizing the theory. Okay, just remember one thing, be it any paper, whenever you get a question, critical examination of any particular aspect, ठीक है, यहाँ पे पूछा गया है अल्फ्रेड वेगनर थियरी और एनी क्रिटिकल एस्पेक्ट, फर्स्ट राइट समथिंग पॉजिटिव अबाउट इट. ठीक है, फर्स्ट राइट समथिंग अबाउट दैट पर्टिकुलर थियरी. डोंट डायरेक्टली जंप ऑन टू go on to criticize this particular theory. So first write some of the assumptions that were made by Alfred Wegener. So what assumptions were made by Alfred Wegener? You can show it in the diagrammatic format, or you can simply write assumptions. You can give a subheading over there, assumptions, and write. Around 200 million years ago, all the continents were joined together. It was called as the Pangaea. It was surrounded by a huge oceanic body called as the Panthalassa. Slowly and steadily, the continents began to break up. Okay, the Pangaea began to break up. There were two parts formed. One was the northern part was called as the Laurentia. The southern part was called as the Gondwana land, separated by the Tethys Sea. Then he also made one very critical assumption. He said that the continents are freely floating over the oceanic landmass. That is, he said that the Sahel is floating over Saima. This was his assumption. Okay, then he said that fourth, that the continents, they are moving in two directions. Some continents are moving towards the equator. They are moving towards the equator. Some continents are moving towards the westward direction. So he said that there were two forces responsible for this movement. For equatorward movements, the force responsible was the pole fleeing force, and for the westward movement, it was the gravitational pull of that is the tidal drag of the sun and the moon. So he made these assumptions. Write about the assumptions in brief. You can simply show it in the diagrammatic format as I've done over here, or you can write it as well. Then show some evidences as well. See, this question is asked for 20 marks. Directly criticism लिखोगे, hardly 10-12 points आपके पास, आप criticism लिखते हो, 8-10 point जो भी criticism के है इसके, ठीक है, उसके बाद क्या करोगे? But it is asked for 20 marks. So ensure that you are writing all the theory in little bit detail. Okay, so some evidences were given by him. First evidences that he gave, that was the jigsaw fit of the continents. Then there was the second, the geological similarity. Some of the mountain ranges, they have same age, same type of rocks. They are found across the two continents. For example, the Appalachian Mountains from the North America side. Okay, here we have the Appalachian Mountains. Okay, from North America side, and here on the northwestern European side we have the Caledonian Mountain. So their structure of the rocks of these two mountain ranges, they are more or less the same, though they are separated by thousands of kilometers apart by the Atlantic Ocean. So this evidence was utilized by Wegener, and he said that, look, the rocks, the mountain ranges, they are of same age, they are of same structure, so definitely these continents were joined together. Okay, fine. Then he also gave evidence related to fossils correlation. He said that some fossils of some animals, some plants, they are found across the continents. For example, the Glossopteris, okay, the Mesosaurus. So we find Glossopteris fossils over here, we find it over here, we also find it over here and here. So he said that the Glossopteris fossils are found across all these regions. So definitely these land masses were joined together. For example, let's say I talk about Asiatic lion. So where do we find Asiatic lion? Asiatic lion we find only in the Gir National Park. So it has its unique habitation. It has its unique location. Okay, so we'll find Asiatic lion currently. We'll find Asiatic lion only in Gir National Park in Gujarat. So similarly, some fossils, they were found at specific locations, and he said that since they are found over here, so definitely all these land masses were joined together. Okay, so fossil correlation he gave about. Then he also gave a relation about the paleoclimatic evidences. He said that if you talk about the location of India, India is now a tropical country. Okay, and if I talk about the southern part of the Indian landmass, the peninsular part of the Indian landmass, it is lying within the tropics. It is near to the equator as well. If I talk about the southern tip, hardly some 8-degree latitude. But in Kerala and some other regions, we find some glacial deposits, glacial tillate deposits. So we find glacial tillate deposits in the southern peninsular part of India. We find glacial tillate deposits here in Africa. We find glacial tillate deposits here in South America. And if you look, if you do the carbon dating of all these glacial tillate deposits, you will find that they are almost more or less of the same age. So Wegener utilized this information in as his evidence, and he said that the paleoclimate, that is the ancient climate, it was more or less the same, because we find tillate deposit, glacial tillate deposits in all these areas, as a result of which all these continental land masses were joined together. Then he also utilized one more evidence, that is the mineral and the depositional continuity. He said that there are some minerals which are found in certain specific areas, but they do not have any source region. For example, if I talk about the West Africa region, here we find gold deposits, but there are no major gold mines present over there. So from where did the gold come in this particular western part of Africa? If you find their origin comes from this the rivers which were flowing from the Brazilian plateau. So there we find this Brazilian plateau, gold was carried over here, and through this river we find placer gold deposits in West Africa. Okay, placer gold deposits, which is the minerals which are carried away by the river action. So he utilized this evidence, and he said that when these two continental land masses were joined together, the rivers flowing from over the Brazilian high plateaus, they were bringing in gold along with them, and they were depositing gold on the West African side. So mineral deposition was yet another evidence used by Wegener for his continental, for explaining his continental drift theory. Okay, so in 1912 he was explaining his theory, and people were like, okay bhai, tu jo bhi bata raha hai sab theek hai. But there were some criticisms. Okay, so other geographers, they started criticizing him, and this is the main question which has been asked, so you should be focusing more upon this part. Okay, so critical examination of the Wegener's theory. First, that is the lack of scientific mechanism. He made an assumption that the continents are moving in two directions. They are moving over the equatorward because of the pole fleeing force, and they are moving westward because of the this tidal force of the sun and the moon. But there was no scientific evidence for this movement given by Wegener. See, just imagine the continents. I'll use this diagram. Just imagine this South America, North America, they were joined together and they have now drifted apart thousands of kilometers. We have a huge Atlantic Ocean in between. So, for this westward movement, had the sun and the moon's gravitational pull been so strong, then it would have literally stopped the rotation of the earth. He said that the continents, they have moved away thousands of kilometers apart because of the gravitational pull of the tidal force of the sun and the moon. But just imagine, if the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon is so strong that it is pulling the continents thousands of kilometers apart, then in that case it will literally stop the rotation of the of our earth. Okay, so there was no scientific evidence given by Wegener to this, and this was lacking in his explanation. Okay, pole fleeing force, so mathematically it was incorrect. Okay, then the problem of continental plowing. Initially he said that the soil is freely floating over the Sima. He made an assumption that the soil is freely floating over the Sima. Then people asked him that you are saying that the continents are freely floating over the oceanic body, then how come we find some mountain ranges present over here? We find Rockies mountain ranges over here, we find Andes mountain ranges over here. So he changed his assumptions. Now what he said that soil is not freely floating over Sima, but it is providing some friction over there. Some places it is providing friction, and because of that friction, there are these fold mountains created over here. And he was also asked about the Himalayan mountain ranges, how they are formed. So he said that there is this equatorward movement, as a result of which that soil is not freely floating over Sima, it is providing some friction. So he was changing his theory. Okay, as per the evidences, he was changing his theory. So he was asked about the Rockies and the Andes mountain ranges. So he said that westward movement. Then he was asked about the Alps and the Himalayas. He said equatorward movement, and there is friction provided by Sima to the soil. Okay, so he was changing his theory. So this was again a drawback in his theory. Okay, so problem of continental plowing. Fine, soil easily floating over Sima, it is not possible. Then the fossil correlation. He said that Glossopteris, Mesosaurus, some other fossils names as well he used, and he said that they were distributed across this region. But remember that the Glossopteris fossils are not just found in the Gondwana land region, but they are also found in the Laurentia part of the region. Some of parts of Iran as well we find Glossopteris for Siberia, then Iran. We find Glossopteris fossils present over there as well. Okay, so even this evidence was not that significant. Okay, the fossil correlation, even that was not that significant. Fine. Then the next criticism was over dependence on circumstantial evidences. For example, this same thing, the Rockies and the Andes mountains. So he wanted to provide circumstantial evidences. So circumstantial evidence, that means some places it is the Sima is providing friction to the soil. Then limited time frame. He said that around 200 million years ago, all the land masses were joined together. There was a supercontinent called as the Pangea. But what about before 200 million years ago? Okay, so he didn't have answer to this as well. Before, so he was talking about the limited time frame only up to 200 million years ago. But today we know that the earth was formed almost around 4 billion years ago. Okay, then the neglect of the ocean floor. If you talk about Wegener's theory, he gave the theory in 1912. He gave his theory in 1912. And at that time, we were not aware of the different topography that are present on the ocean surface or at the bottom of the oceans. Okay, today now we know that there are trenches, there are deeps, there are ridges, there are guyards. Okay, there are different topographical feature along the ocean floor as well. But in 1912, there was no information with Wegener or with some other oceanographer or geographer at that time. So Wegener had limited knowledge with respect to mid-oceanic ridges, ocean trenches, and seafloor spreading. So as a result of which his theory was criticized. He didn't provide any information. He said that the continents are moving, but what about the oceans? Okay, so he didn't have any knowledge or any information with respect to oceans as well. Okay, so these are some of the criticism, but always ensure that now the question is asking critically examine. So do not simply criticize and end your answer. Do provide some positives as well. No doubt he gave some assumptions, he gave some evidences, and there were some criticisms with respect to his theory, but still his theory is relevant. Still his theory, it is a theory, still his theory is relevant because it did provide a basis for our understanding about the movement of the continents to some extent. At least one thing that he said, that the continents were joined together around 200 million years ago. Yes, this is correct. Okay, and he said that the continents are in continuous motion, but he didn't say, have the, or you can say, evidence or proof or some knowledge why the continents are moving. It was the later theories, that is the convection current theory, then there was the seafloor spreading, then later on came the plate tectonics theory, which provided concrete evidences, yes, the continents are moving. But the base of this movement of the continent was set up by the Wegener, as a result of which his theory is relevant. So modern day evaluation and relevance. So validation through plate tectonics. Now we know, because of plate tectonics, yes, the continents are moving, but base was set up by the Wegener. GPS based configuration, confirmation, we know. Okay, then paradigm shift in geography. There was a paradigm shift. Okay, a sudden change of thought. Before that, people were not aware about the continents, why there are earthquakes, why there are volcanoes, why the continents are moving and all. Before Wegener, no one was even, people were thinking, but definitely in not that concrete way. But he provided the base for it. So just end up on a positive note, that this paradigm shift in geography was provided by the Wegener. Just summarize all these things in the conclusion part. Okay, so I hope this question is correct with you. Okay, do not directly jump on to criticize. Draw proper diagrams in your answer. Then only you'll get good marks. Okay, so geographical होना चाहिए because it is asked specifically geographical account. Right. We'll move to next question. What is meant by insolation? Explain geographical account of factors affecting distribution of solar energy. See, these are mains of Maharashtra State PCS. So here I'm no doubt I'm speaking mostly in English, but in my class I speak in both languages आणि तिथं मी दोन्ही भाषेमध्ये कव्हर करतो. ठीक आहे. सौरशक्ती म्हणजे काय वगैरे. So what is meant by insolation? Explain geographical account of factors affecting distribution of solar energy. Okay, so directly definition has been asked. So you can directly start with a definition, or you can simply write something about with respect to insolation. So insolation is central to the climatology and Earth's heat budget, which was given by, again, geographer's name is important. It was given by Köppen and Milankovitch. Okay, so these are the two people, Köppen and Milankovitch. These are the two people who made a detailed study about the heat budget. About heat budget. I'm not talking about the insulation. They made a detailed study about the heat budget. So I'm simply trying to relate it, because geography optional, you have to relate it in some or the other way. You cannot simply write insolation is nothing but the incoming of the solar radiation in the form of shortwave radiation. You cannot simply write a GS based answer. You have to relate some or the other geographer's name with your answer, and this is very critical. To score that extra marks, this is very critical. Okay, so refers to the incoming solar radiation received by the earth surface. You can also put in a diagram as well. Insolation is the amount of solar energy received per unit area of the earth surface in the form of short wave radiation. Okay, so it is asking, it is a 15 marker question, and it is asking what is meant by insolation. Explain geographical factors associated with distribution of solar energy. What is insolation? Write in brief about this result. Do not simply write the definition and leave your answer. फक्त definition लिहून सोडू नका. ठीक आहे, त्याच्याने मार्क लागणार, because definition will be hardly covered in 2 odd lines, but write some description about this insolation as well. Okay, then go on to write about the geographical factors affecting insolation. ठीक है. So there are number of factors which are associated. Okay, insolation meaning that A should be above. Okay, so we find insolation is very intense along the tropical region. Okay, and here the sun rays are directly perpendicular, as a result of which the insolation is high in the tropical region. Then as we move from the tropics towards the poles, the insolation goes on decreasing. So the insolation over there, the sun rays are oblique in nature, as a result of which the insolation is less. Okay, so this also affects the heat budget of the earth. Okay, we find along the tropical, this insolation has helped in generation of 3 different belts. we find the torrid belt, we find the frigid belt, sorry, temperate belt, and we find the frigid zone. So there are different zones because of the insolation of the earth, right? Some information about it. Then how does it affect the heat budget? Okay, heat budget significance. Lower latitudes, that is the torrid zone or the tropical zone, receives high insolation, so we find high heat over there. This and the polar areas receives low insolation, so low heat is over there. And for to maintain the heat balance of the earth, the tropical heat is transferred towards the poles. Write something about it. Then this is also responsible, this insulation is responsible for surplus heat in the equator, which drives the atmospheric circulation, which drives the ocean currents, and which drives the convection currents. Okay, the heat convection currents. And on the pole we have the heat deficit. So write some information about some insulation. Do not simply write definition and directly jump onto factors. Now we come to the second part which has been asked. Okay, factors affecting the distribution. So latitude is one important factor. Okay, we just now have seen lower latitudes, that is along the equator, high insolation, I'm sorry, high insolation is there. Okay, and on the polar areas low insolation we find. Then the angle of incidence of the sun rays is yet another factor. Along the equator the sun rays are directly perpendicular, okay, as a result of which insolation is high, and on the poles it is oblique, as a result of which the insolation is less. Then the duration of sunshine, for example, now in the northern hemisphere we are having summer season, as a result of which we find sunset taking place somewhere around 7 बजे के आसपास, 7 p.m., 7:15 p.m. So the sunshine duration is quite long. ओके, एंड सनराइज भी बहुत जल्दी हो जाता है, समर सीजन चल रहा है तो 5:30 के आसपास सनराइज भी हो जाता है. सो द ड्यूरेशन ऑफ द सनशाइन इज लॉन्ग ड्यूरिंग द समर सीजन, एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ विच द इंसोलेशन विल बी हाई ड्यूरिंग द समर season and it will be less during the winter season. So this is yet another factor. Then the earth's revolution and seasonal shift. We know that earth revolves around the sun in an elliptical orbit, so we have two positions, that is the perihelion and the aphelion position. Perihelion position, when the earth is nearer to the sun, that is in the month of January, 3rd of January, and no, what you can say, on 4th of July it is farther away from the sun, so the insolation will be little bit less. Then the distance between that is same perihelion and the aphelion position. Then the atmospheric transparency, this is also very important. Now summer season is going on, there are no clouds in the sky, as a result of which high insolation is there, the intensity of the heat is very high. Okay, so insolation is high, but during the winter season we find smog is there. In India we find mostly smog is there. Then there are some you can say dust particles or hazy conditions are there, as a result of which insolation is less. Now soon monsoon season will be starting, so there will be enough cloud cover in the sky, so the insolation will again decrease. So even atmospheric transparency affects the insolation. Then altitude, higher altitude, as you are going high on the mountain ranges, top of the mountain ranges, the atmosphere becomes very thin. The atmosphere becomes very transparent, as a result of which on top of the mountains what we see, the intensity of the sunlight, that is the insolation of sunlight, is high. Okay, do not forget this thing. The insolation is high at a higher altitude. For example, you go to Tibet, and you just stand in the sunlight. After a certain period of time your skin will start burning because there is intense UV radiation, because the location of the Tibet is already at a very high altitude. ठीक है, 3,000 4,000 मीटर हाई एल्टीट्यूड पे वो प्रेजेंट है. ओके, सो हायर एल्टीट्यूड रिसीव ग्रेटर insolation due to thinner atmosphere and lower absorption on the mountain plateau. Example, Tibetan plateau. ठीक है, just now last month I was in Arunachal Pradesh, Tawang. So during the afternoon time, even at this time I used to sit in the sun. 12 बजे के टाइम पे भी सनराइज, बट बिकॉज ऑफ दैट देयर वाज लॉट ऑफ टैनिंग व्हिच हैज हैपेंड. ठीक है, सो देयर इज हाई insolation at higher altitude. Then the nature of a surface, the albedo effect. Okay, we already know that the white surfaces have the highest albedo effect, that is the glaciers, they have a very high albedo effect, and as a result of which the insolation that will be reflected back easily. ठीक है, water and forest absorb more heat energy. Then slope and aspect. ठीक है, even these are affecting the insolation. ठीक है, sun facing the slope side receive greater insolation. For example, if I talk about the Himalayan mountain ranges, ठीक है, Okay, so if I talk about the Himalayan mountain ranges, so we know that the location of the Himalayan mountain ranges, it is north of the Tropic of Cancer. Okay, so north of the Tropic of Cancer. So the apparent movement of the sun is only up to this 23.5 degree north. Okay, so the southern slopes of the Himalayan mountain ranges, they will be receiving high insolation, whereas the northern slopes of the Himalayan mountain ranges, they won't be receiving that much of insolation. Okay, so sun facing slopes receive greater radiation, greater insolation. Okay, so aspect of slope in which direction, that also affects the insolation direction. Then write some implications with respect to this thing, factors you have written. Okay, so formation of global pressure belt is there, the movement of the ocean currents is there, then all these climatic conditions we find, then the vegetation changes take place because of the insolation. Okay, we have high insolation in the tropical regions, as a result of which the diversity of the vegetation forest is very high in this area. Hot humid conditions ban jate hain because of high insolation, as a result of which the vegetation becomes different. Okay. Okay, so this concludes this influencing atmospheric, climatological, ecological patterns and human activities across the geographical regions. So I hope this second question is clear with respect to you. Okay, don't simply write in one line what is meant by insulation and leave the answer. It is a 15 marker question. Had it been 10 marker question, then it was fine. Explain a little bit about insulation in brief and then go on to jump to the geographical factors. ठीक है, so थोड़ा lengthy लिखना पड़ता है, optional का paper है तो ठीक है, अच्छे अच्छे डायग्राम्स, प्रैक्टिस दीज डायग्राम्स. ठीक है, आई विल बी शेयरिंग दिस पीडीएफ्स विद यू. ठीक है, इसको प्रैक्टिस करो, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. ठीक है, इंसुलेशन, सॉइल फॉर्मेशन, सेम टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चंस वर आस्क्ड मोर और लेस. ठीक है, एक्सप्लेन द प्रोसेस ऑफ सॉइल फॉर्मेशन. एक्सप्लेन पूछा है, सीधे सीधे एक्सप्लेन, 15 मार्क के लिए. ठीक है, अब कुछ तो बड़ा चढ़ा के लिखना पड़ेगा. ठीक है, so soil formation I have already explained about these two names, so do remember these two names whenever you get a question in UPSC or in MPSC or in any other state examination जहाँ पे descriptive pattern पे है. Soil formation explained scientifically by Hans Jenny and Vasily Dukoshev. I have already explained the names of these two people in the previous video. Okay, so what is soil formation? Then Jenny's chlorpat model we have talked about previously, climate, organisms, then this relief topography, parent material and the time. These are the factors which are affecting the soil formation process. ठीक है, directly jump मत करना, explain the process लिखा है, don't directly jump, weathering and all सब उसके बारे में. First write some factors as well. ठीक है, that will fetch you extra marks. Okay, you are writing optional paper, you have to write it a little bit in detail. ठीक है, then go on to write the process of soil formation. ठीक है, so process of soil formation we already know that भाई weathering वगैरह होता है, physical weathering है, biological weathering है, chemical weathering है, all these activities takes place. Then humification is there, organic matter keeps on decomposing because of the organic activities. Then elevation process is there, there's a soil horizon layers and all, elevation process is there because of this intense what can say, intense rainfall or intense water movement. Some of the minerals from the top layer of the soil, that is the organic layer of the soil, they begin to percolate downwards, they begin to move downwards, that is called as the elevation process. Then elevation, deposition of the leached minerals, so all the entire processes where it gets deposited over here. Then mineral transformation, chemical reaction, alter minerals and secondary clay. Then horizon differentiation, this is nothing but it is also the different horizons that we see, that is different horizons of the soil. So we have different layers, uh, OAEBC. ठीक है, ई रह गया यहाँ पे, OAEBC. ठीक है, एलिवेशन लेयर रह गया था. Then significance about this soil formation. Now what is the significance of soil? ठीक है, उन्होंने, the question has been asked only about the explain the process of soil formation. So if you are simply directly ending your answer by writing the process of soil formation, your answer will become again very short. Okay, it has been asked for a 15 marks, write some significance. I have already said that there has to be some human angle to your answer as well, कुछ ह्यूमन फैक्टर भी होना चाहिए. सो जोग्राफिकल सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ सॉइल फॉर्मेशन क्या क्या है भाई? डिटरमाइन एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोडक्टिविटी, ठीक है, इन्फ्लुएंसेस वेजिटेशन, कंट्रोल्स हाइड्रोलॉजिकल, शेप्स लैंड यूज पैटर्न्स एंड रिफ्लेक्ट क्लाइमेटिक एंड बायो जोग्राफिक जियोमॉर्फिक हिस्ट्री ऑफ आवर लैंड सर्फेसेस. ठीक है, सो स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड क्वेश्चन था, सो आई डोंट वोंट गो इन टू मच डिटेल. ठीक है, देन क्वेश्चन नंबर 3A. State the process of rainfall. पहले soil के बारे में पूछा, अभी process of rainfall. So being first time they are conducting this exam in a descriptive pattern, that's why the questions were very straightforward. ठीक है, state the process of rainfall and explain the different types of rainfall with figures. ठीक है, सो रेनफॉल अ मेजर कंपोनेंट ऑफ हाइड्रोलॉजिकल साइकिल. बचपन से पढ़ते आए हाइड्रोलॉजिकल साइकिल क्या क्या होता है भाई. वाटर इवेपोरेशन हो जाता है, ठीक है, देन कंडेंसेशन हो जाता है, क्लाउड फॉर्मेशन वगैरह हो जाता है, देन प्रेसिपिटेशन हो जाता है, एंड डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स एंड ऑल. ठीक है, सो टॉड बर्जरॉन वाज द प्रोसेस हु एक्सप्लेन्ड इन द क्लाइमेटोलॉजी. प्रोसेस ऑफ रेनफॉल की बात करें तो द सेम थिंग. इवेपोरेशन, मॉइस्चर एडिशन, राइजिंग ऑफ द मॉइस्ट एयर, एडियाबैटिक कूलिंग टेक्स प्लेस. ठीक है, कंडेंसेशन प्रोसेस, क्लाउड फॉर्मेशन एंड coalescence, and then there is formation of the water droplets. Then if I talk about the types of rainfall, ठीक है, see the types of rainfall, the general types, we have the convectional rainfall, we have the orographic rainfall, and we have the frontal type of rainfall. But apart from this, then there are precipitation types. Okay, so there is a little bit of difference. ठीक, so rainfall पूछा है तो stick to it only. Convectional rainfall takes place because of the intense heating of the land surfaces, intense heating of the water surfaces taking place mostly along the equatorial region, and also in the tropical regions. जैसे कि for example summer season have started, some places we find rainfall taking place because it is nothing but because of the intense heating. ठीक है, so even on land surfaces, for example in peninsular part of India, we get during the summer season we get convectional rainfall. जो pre monsoon showers वगैरह जो होते हैं, it is mostly because of the convectional high intensity of convection currents over there. ठीक है, so intense solar heating causes warm moist air to rise vertically. Rapid cooling forms cumulonimbus clouds, and short duration heavy rainfall takes place. With diagram है भाई, आर्ट डायग्राम के साथ उधर explain कर देते हैं. ठीक है, characteristics, high, heavy, intense, short lived rainfall. Do mention the geographical areas. ठीक है, equator is the region, then pre monsoon in India, important for tropical heat balance and convection. Then orographic rainfall, monsoon rainfall in India, in the peninsular part of India, and even in the eastern parts of the Himalayas. It is mostly what is it? It is a orographic type of rainfall. ठीक है, मॉइस्ट एयर कंडेंस. ठीक है, साउथ वेस्ट मानसून पूरा ओरोग्राफिक रेनफॉल के बारे में यू कैन पुट इट अबाउट. ठीक है, एंडीज में भी हमें ये देखने को मिलता है. देन साइक्लोनिक और फ्रंटल रेनफॉल अकर्स वेयर टू कॉन्ट्रास्टिंग एयर मासेस मीट, मोस्टली सीन इन एंड अराउंड द 60 डिग्री लैटिट्यूड्स. ठीक है, where we find the westerlies and the polar easterlies, they merge together, that we find the cyclonic frontal rainfall taking place. ठीक है, so convergence of westerlies, warm westerlies is present over there, and polar, cold polar easterlies is taking place, as a result of which the warm air will rise above, and there will be formation of this adiabatic cooling will take place, condensation will take place, and there will be cloud formation and precipitation will be taking place. ठीक है, so we have the frontal cyclonic rainfall taking place. Then as I've said कि भैया इतना लिखने पे होता नहीं है, कुछ human significance भी लिखो. rainfall का significance क्या है, just put it about it in brief and your answer will be done. ठीक है, then next question 3b, what is meant by salinity of oceans and which factors affect the salinity of the ocean. ठीक है, now there aren't specific geographers which are present in our syllabus. ठीक है, इसके अलावा दूसरे geographers वगैरह है, but I won't unnecessarily complicate this by putting in some of the other geographers name which you people are not aware of. जो हमारे books में वगैरह है, standard books that we use for geography optional, physical geography वगैरह. ठीक है, सविंदर सिंह and all. So whatever the standard books that we use, there no other geographers name. ठीक है, so unnecessary google करके कुछ नाम डालने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. Salinity nothing but it is the number of salt, amount of salt dissolved in the water. ठीक है, parts per thousand. So major salts that are included, that is the sodium chloride, NaCl, magnesium chloride, then we have potassium sulfates, calcium sulfates and all. Then directly jump to the factors affecting the ocean salinity. Now there are multiple factors which are affecting the ocean salinity. First is the evaporation. ठीक है, wherever there is high evaporation taking place, there we will find the salinity will be high, because wherever evaporation is taking place, water vapor is a pure form of water. ठीक है, if you talk about the earth's surface, almost 71% of the earth's surface is covered by water, and here insolation or heat is high mostly within the tropical areas. So within the tropical areas, what I will find, So within the tropical areas, the intensity of the sunlight is very high, as a result of which in this area what we will find, the evaporation will be quite high. Since evaporation is very high, water vapor is a pure form of water. When the water evaporates, left behind are nothing but there are salts will be left behind. As a result of which, wherever evaporation is high, wherever sunlight or intensity or insolation is high, evaporation will be high and salinity will be high. So remember this thing. Okay, so here I have drawn some small diagrams as well. Sea water evaporates and left salt left behind, as a result of which salinity increases. Okay, then high temperature and dry winds also accelerate the evaporation, as a result of which subtropical high pressure belts, they have a very high salinity. Okay, so across our planet Earth, we find highest salinity here in the range of 20 to 30 degree latitudes. We do not find highest salinity along the equator. Let's say this is the equator. We do not find very high salinity along the equator. Now you people will be like, पर इक्वेटर पे तो सबसे ज्यादा सनलाइट वगैरह होता है. But remember that along the equator, just now we have talked about the types of rainfall. Along the equator, there is convectional rainfall taking place almost on a every day, on a regular basis. Every day there is rainfall taking place along the equator, almost every day. ठीक है. In the morning you will find very high humidity, you will find very high intensity of sunlight. 8 बजे से लेके बहुत ज़्यादा धूप वगैरह निकल जाती है along the equator. And after somewhere around 11 to 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. around, you will find some cloud formation taking place, and after 2 to 4 p.m. you will find there will be high intensity of clouds, high coverage of the clouds will be present over there, and around somewhere around 3 4 p.m. there will be rainfall taking place. Okay, so this is every day taking place. So because along the equator there is rainfall taking place on a regular basis, as a result of which there we do not find low salinity, there we do not find very high salinity, sorry, there we do not find very high salinity along the equator. But in the range of this 20 to 30 degree latitudes, this area is a zone of high pressure. 20 to 30 degree latitude, it is an area of zone of high pressure. Since it is a zone of high pressure, will there be clouds forming up on this area? It is a high pressure zone, air is descending, there won't be clouds in the sky, as a result of which insolation will be high, evaporation will be high, salinity will be very high. Okay, so do remember this thing. ये पूरा डिटेल में कंसेप्ट क्लासेस में एक्सप्लेन करेंगे. ठीक है. सो सब ट्रॉपिकल हाई प्रेशर बेल्ट्स 20 maximum salinity we find, so as a result of which Atlantic Ocean 20-30 degree we find the highest salinity. Then Red Sea also we record a very high salinity, 40 parts per thousand. Same is the case with the Persian Gulf. Okay, then precipitation, just now I explained along the equator we do not find highest salinity because there is daily precipitation taking place. So some other regions as well, for example, along the west coast of India, now there will be southwest monsoon winds that will be coming up. So as a result of which there will be precipitation taking place, and as a result of which salinity will go on, will decrease to some extent. Then river discharge, wherever large rivers they are joining this seas or the oceans, there the salinity is less. For example, the northern part of the Bay of Bengal. If I talk about northern part of Bay of Bengal, we find some large rivers. There is Ganga, there is Brahmaputra. They are bringing in a lot of fresh water along with them, as a result of which the northern part of Bay of Bengal we find less salinity. There the salinity is almost 32 parts per thousand. So it is 3 parts less in the northern part of the Bay of Bengal than the average 35 parts per thousand. As a result of which, wherever rivers are discharging large fresh water, there we find little bit less salinity. इसका और एक example है. For example, you go to the mouth of the Narmada river. ठीक है, गुजरात के पास. You go to the mouth of the Narmada river, where Narmada river is joining the Arabian Sea. You will find that point, that place, there will be the salinity will be comparatively less. ठीक है. Then again another, go to Amazon river as well. Then temperature is related with the evaporation. Okay, wherever there will be high temperature there will be high evaporation and there will be high salinity. Wherever there is low temperature there will be low evaporation and there will be low salinity, as a result of which polar areas have less salinity. Okay, then ocean currents also affect the salinity to a great extent. Okay, in the tropical areas we have warm ocean currents. These ocean currents, they are moving in a specific direction. So whenever the warm ocean currents from the tropical areas, mostly they are moving from the ocean eastern part of the ocean to the western part of the ocean. So while they are moving the warm ocean current, so I can say that on the western side of the oceans, western side of the oceans, there is piling up of warm water taking place within the tropics, as a result of which within the tropics there will be high salinity. Then the same ocean currents, they are carrying the water towards the temperate areas. Okay, so there the salinity will again increase. ठीक है. If I talk about the coastal areas of the west coast areas of the Europe, we will find the salinity will be little bit higher because of the Gulf Stream, because of the North Atlantic drift, no, not Gulf Stream, because of the North Atlantic drift. Okay. Then cold currents reduce evaporation and lower the salinity. For example, you talk about Peru current, Humboldt current. ठीक है, cold current है, so evaporation will be less and there will be less salinity. ठीक है. Then freezing and melting of the ice. ठीक है. Whenever the ice begins to freeze, ठीक है, there is the anomalous behavior of water. Whenever the ice begins to freeze, then what happens, the ice, it has less density and it floats. But when the water is freezing, whatever the salt particles which are present within the ice, they get excluded. ठीक है. So when the ice sheet, it is freezing, the salt particles within it gets excluded because they are a little bit heavy and all. Okay, so they get excluded, as a result of which in cold areas what we find, on top surface there is ice sheet which is pure form of water, and below that you will find little bit of higher salinity because the salt has got excluded, called as the ice exclusion effect. Okay, so freezing and melting of ice, it leads to changes in the salinity. Okay, during the freezing we find ice formation is taking place. On the surface the salinity will be less. So polar areas, Arctic region, will find surface the salinity will be less, but as you are moving down the salinity will be little bit higher. Then when ice melting is taking place, when ice melting is taking, fresh water is added and salinity will decrease. Okay. Then enclosed and semi-enclosed seas. If I talk about the enclosed sea, for example the Mediterranean Sea, then if I talk about the Persian Gulf, if I talk about the Red Sea, okay, so more or less, I'm not saying exactly Mediterranean, so more or less within the tropical belt. So these enclosed seas, they are not receiving large amount of fresh water. If I talk about Red Sea, there are hardly any rivers, freshwater rivers entering the Red Sea, and more or less it is enclosed. There is high evaporation taking place, as a result of which what we see, Red Sea has high salinity. There are some other water bodies, for example the Dead Sea is called itself called as the Dead Sea because its salinity is very high, 220 parts per thousand. Okay, so it is enclosed. There is no you can say fresh water getting added to this particular area, okay, to this sea. So these areas there will be having high salinity. Then winds, prevailing winds also influence the salinity through evaporation and movement of the surface. Okay, so dry offshore wind increase evaporation. When the winds, for example the northeast winds that will moving, they are moving from land over the water body, they are offshore. So they are moving offshore winds, they will increase the evaporation, and there will be increase in the salinity. Okay, moist onshore winds may reduce the salinity. For example southwest monsoon winds, moist winds will be coming in, precipitation will be present over there, as a result of which salinity will decrease. So there are number of factors which are affecting the salinity, so focus more upon this and how this is affecting. It is helping in interaction with evaporation, rainfall, river discharge, all these interactions. Okay. You may also write human significance if you want, because already factors ही इतने सारे लिख दोगे, इसके साथ सब पे diagrams भी निकालने, so you might find less time for this particular answer because ये काफी lengthy answer हो जाता है. ठीक है, but in case if you want to write, you may write significance of salinity. ठीक है, so salinity की वजह से क्या होता है, we know the density of the water where the high salinity will be present, the water level will be little bit less, as a result of which it will affect the navigation and all, we can utilize it for navigation and all. Then salt का use, salt किसके लिए भाई, खाने के लिए. ठीक है, then not only that we get other minerals, and I'm not talking about only NaCl. There are a number of salts which are present in the seas or the ocean water bodies, so the other salts they are utilized for utilized as minerals. ठीक है, so you can write some significance, human significance about it. ठीक है. Okay, then next question. See, I have in this model answers, I have presented different ways of writing the answers. Some places I put in paragraph format, some places I put it in point-wise format, some places here I put it in a little bit of different tabular format and all. So there should be different variety of answers that you'll be writing, different pattern as well. Okay, different pattern of writing answers should be present, should be seen in your paper, and this will come by practice only. ठीक है, ऐसा नहीं है कि भाई एक दिन में किया और आ गया. This will come by practice. Okay, so next question, what is meant by ecosystem? Explain the types of ecosystem on earth. So if I talk about this term ecosystem, it was given by Arthur Tansley in 1935, and ecosystem is it is the basic functional unit, it is the smallest functional unit of nature, where living organisms are continuously interacting with one another, and they are also interacting with the nature or with the world, which is the abiotic components. So to write about the components consists of biotic and abiotic components. Then types of ecosystem, there are two major types of ecosystem. There is natural ecosystem and there are artificial ecosystems as well. Do not forget about artificial. ठीक है, वरना एग्जाम में सिर्फ नेचुरल इकोसिस्टम के बारे में रटा हुआ रहता है, ज्योग्राफी का पेपर एक ही चीज दिमाग में चल रही होती है. ठीक है, so do not forget about the artificial ecosystems as well. So natural ecosystem, they are of two types, terrestrial and the aquatic ecosystem. Then if I talk about the artificial ecosystem, ठीक है, there are of different types. For example, an agricultural field is itself an ecosystem. ठीक है, this urban ecosystem, we find roads, we find buildings, we find some transportation facilities, for example metro वगैरह. ठीक है, so that itself is a ecosystem, but it is different. This artificial ecosystem is different from the natural ecosystem. If we talk about the artificial ecosystem, here external things are provided. For example, external energy is provided, the diversity is less. For example, if I talk about agricultural field, ये एग्रीकल्चर किसका है, गेहूं की खेती है, उसमें कोई डाइवर्सिटी होगी क्या? माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स होगा, पानी वगैरह होगा, अबायोटिक कंपोनेंट, सॉइल वगैरह होगा, अबायोटिक कंपोनेंट, माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स, बायोटिक कंपोनेंट, एंड द प्लांट दैट इज द क्रॉप दैट इज ग्रोइंग, दैट इज द wheat crop. So we do not find too much of diversity over here. So artificial ecosystem has less diversity as compared to natural ecosystem. Natural ecosystem, for example, फॉरेस्ट का इकोसिस्टम ले लो, आपको डाइवर्सिटी डाइवर्सिटी मिल जाएगी. ठीक है, प्लांट्स की डाइवर्सिटी, माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिज्म के, एनिमल्स की डाइवर्सिटी. ठीक है, so the characteristics of these differ between artificial and natural ecosystem. Then some terrestrial ecosystem you can mention about. सारे के सारे लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है, दो चार के बारे में जो आपको पता है उनके बारे में लिख दो. ठीक है, फॉरेस्ट ecosystem, there are different characteristics, multi-layered vegetation वगैरह. ठीक है, highest biodiversity, nutrient efficient nutrient cycling. natural है, efficient nutrient cycling होगा, whereas man made में efficient nutrient cycling वगैरह नहीं होता. ठीक है, components producers है, tree shrubs वगैरह, herbs. There are consumers are present, animals are present, then decomposers are also present over there. Types है इसके भी, forest के भी different types है, evergreen type of forest, grassland type of forest we have, then coniferous type of forest we have. ठीक है, so the importance है इसका भी, कार्बन सिंक वगैरह है, climate regulation, prevent soil erosion, so lot of things are present. ठीक है, then grassland ecosystem, then desert ecosystem, tundra ecosystem. ठीक है, then we have also aquatic ecosystem. Then aquatic ecosystem is also of two types, freshwater ecosystem and we have the marine ecosystem. Freshwater ecosystem की बात करें, then there are lentic ecosystem and there are lotic ecosystem. Lentic means stagnant water, for example lakes, ponds, which are stagnant water. Lotic means where the water is continuously in movement, flowing system में, जैसे कि rivers, streams, so they are also freshwater ecosystem. Then marine ecosystem, just now we have talked about oceans and all, so oceans के बारे में वगैरह we find different ecosystem. ठीक है, so this is yet another way of writing your answer. इस format में भी आप लिख सकते हो. diagrams ये थोड़े से generate किए हुए हैं. ठीक है, तो but this pattern you can try to inculcate. diagram बाद में इसमें add कर दिए गए. ठीक है, so try to make some pattern, because this question itself, if you are practicing answer writing, then by looking at the question itself you get to know that this particular question, the answer will be quite lengthy. Then on the spot you have to think कि in what type of in what manner I'll be writing this answer. For example, I put in over here like a tabular manner कि वो explain types of ecosystem, and I was like यार इतने सारे types of ecosystem है, किस किस के बारे में क्या क्या लिखे, तो एक टेबल बना दो. ठीक है, उसमें दो चार के बारे में लिख दो and that's it. ठीक है, ठीक है, fine. Then next question, 4A, write geographical account of classification of ocean deposits. ठीक है, so ocean deposits if I talk about, then there was a marine geologist called as by the name John Murray. Okay, he has talked about the ocean deposits. The ocean deposits are basically formed because of some geological activities, some because of the chemical and the biological processes. Okay, so if I talk about the classification, there are different types of ocean deposits. We find terrigenous ocean deposits, which are derived from terrestrial areas. Okay, land masses. So there are sand, silt, clay, mud. All these are coming from the continental land masses called a territorial area, okay, called as the terrigenous deposits. Then we have biogenous deposits which are coming from some organisms, ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल स्केलेटन्स वगैरह है, माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स वगैरह है, प्लैंक्टन्स है वगैरह, ठीक है, दे आर ऑफ टू टाइप्स, कैलकेरियस एंड सिलेशियस. देन हाइड्रोजनस विच आर केमिकल बेस्ड, ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल if I talk about water, earth surface 71% almost covered by water surface, okay, and water is a type of a universal solvent, so whatever you put into water, some of the other time it will get dissolved. There will be some chemical reactions taking place upon that particular thing, and as a result of which it will get dissolved into the water. So as a result of which hydrogenous or chemical based deposits are also present on the oceans. Then there are cosmogenous deposits. Earth is a kind of it is a spaceship, it is a natural spaceship, ठीक है, which is traversing across this space, moving across the or revolving across the sun. And this particular spaceship, this particular natural spaceship, earth natural spaceship, it is receiving a lot of terrestrial material. Sometimes asteroids are coming in, ठीक है, meteoroids are coming in. Then there is meteoric dust, cosmic dust, ठीक है, एस्ट्रॉइड तो चलो कभी कभी आ जाते हैं, 2-4 करोड़ साल में एक हाथ बार आ जाता है, ठीक है, बट meteoric dust, cosmic dust, it is a natural process. It is every day there is lakhs of you can tell tons of cosmic dust putting up in the oceans, ठीक है, though they are very small, very minute, not immediately visible to our naked eye, but we are receiving it, meteoric dust, cosmic dust, ठीक है. Then terrigenous deposit, write a brief about this particular thing. ठीक है, terrigenous deposits are moving towards the oceans. It is getting added to the oceans by the process of weathering, ठीक है. So rivers are carrying yeah, weathering and erosion, rivers are carrying in, then glaciers are carrying in, then winds are carrying in. So because of different types of erosional activities, glacial, fluvial, aeolian, right, information about them, ठीक है. So major characteristics, they were derived mainly from rocks, ठीक है. And if I talk about this terragenous deposits, we find zones of this terragenous deposits. On the continental shelf, mostly we'll find sand, silt, and gravels. Okay. And if I talk about the abyssal plains, which are further deeper areas, here I'll find mud and clay mostly. Okay. Deeper areas I'll find on the continental slopes, on continental shelf, sand, silt, and no, this gravels I'll be finding. But if I talk about continental slopes and the abyssal plains, I'll find clay most dominant. Okay, because clay particles are very small in size, as a result of which they will be carried further downwards. Okay, the continental shelf receive maximum terrigenous deposit due to river discharge. Then turbidity currents which are flowing at a certain depth in the oceans, they are carrying the small particles, that is the clay particles, mud particles, to the abyssal plains. Then there are these terrigenous deposits, they are of two types. There is the neritic deposits, and there we find the pelagic clay deposits. Neritic deposits, which is found on the continental shelves and slopes, and pelagic clay deposits, that is found along the abyssal plains. Then next we have the biogenous deposits. Just now I've talked about, they are also of two types, calcareous oozes. So mostly calcium will be present. Okay, so we have foraminifera, pteropods, and coccoliths, but these are not found at a very high depth. Okay, they are not present at a great depth because there is a layer called as the carbonate compensation depth. Since they are calcareous, that is shells, ये skeletons वगैरह, ठीक है, animals के, so not at very great depth, because beyond carbonate compensation depth they'll easily get dissolved, ठीक है, फिर वो chemical activity वहां पे बन जाता है, they'll get easily dissolved. So they are found at a higher above the carbonate compensation depth. Then siliceous ooze, ठीक है, सिलिका इनमें ज्यादा रहता है, diatoms and radiolarians, these will be found at the deeper waters, Antarctic waters, equatorial upwelling regions वगैरह, ठीक है. Then some significance as well of these resources, either you can put in the significance of these resources at the end, और उन्हीं के साथ साथ भी अगर लिख देते हो तो चलेगा. Now these are biogenous, ठीक है, बायोजेनस, so they are organism derived. So as a result of which we know that from organism derived these deposits, these crude oil and gas, natural gas and everything that are formed. ठीक है, so source rocks for petroleum generation, useful for reconstruction, oceanic climatic history, and indicators of marine productivity. If in such certain ocean area, if there is biogenous deposits in large quantity, so we can definitely say that in this area the number of life living species is very high. The biodiversity will be very high in this area, so as a result of which it provides us a marine productivity information. Then hydrogenous, as I've said, chemically precipitated, okay, so sea water formed in situ because of, and slowly it forms, ठीक है, सो मैंगनीज नोड्यूल्स, फॉस्फोराइड्स वगैरह ये आपको वहाँ पे मिल जाएगा. कॉस्मिक डिपॉजिट्स फ्रॉम दी cosmic dust and meteoric dust. Okay, so you can put in this information based on the location. Continental shelf, as I've said, coarse sediments will be present over there. Okay, sand, gravel, mud. Continental slope, turbidity, here clay will be formed over here. Silt clay, abyssal plains, ooze and red clay will be present. So mentioning about the significance of ocean deposit, climatic reconstruction काम में आ सकता है. ठीक है, then resource potential, just now we have talked about petroleum resources के बारे में, understanding of plate tectonics as well. ठीक है, because we have Harris and all, they gave about the concept of sea floor spreading. ठीक है, so sea floor spreading का concept है, so what they have basically studied, they have studied the rocks and they have studied the sea floor spreading. People those also associated with studying of sea floor spreading, they are studying the rocks. So basically rocks are nothing but a composition of different minerals. ठीक है, so that rocks, that composition of minerals, studying that helps in understanding about the plate tectonics as well. ठीक है, marine ecosystem studies, just now we have talked about the biogenous deposits. Okay. Then question number 4b, explain the erosional landforms of arid region with suitable figures. So arid cycle of erosion was given by LC King. ठीक है, so according to Lester Charles King, arid geomorphology is dominated by mechanical weathering. It is dominated by wind erosion and mechanical weathering. These are the two important factors which are responsible for mechanical for erosion and weathering in the arid region. So it is asking about the erosional landforms. ठीक है, तो landforms, ठीक है, तो directly इसके बाद landforms पे jump कर दे, because there are number of landforms which are formed because of the erosional processes. ठीक है, तो brief में processes, we find deflation processes there, because of which deflation hollows are created. Then abrasion process is there, wherein the wind is carrying the sand particles, and those sand particles they blast upon the rocks, and they are responsible for formation of different landforms. For example, we find mushroom rocks getting formed, we find ventifacts getting formed, rocks of different angles getting cut. Then we find yardungs, we also find zeugene, we also find tomarcells. ठीक है, then attrition, the collision of the particles against one another. ठीक है, so sand particles which are carried in the arid areas, they will blast or they will collide against one another, and over a period of time their size will reduce. Then weathering, mechanical weathering is also very dominant in arid region because of the very high you can say change in temperature. Diurnal range of temperature changes very high, especially during the winter months. For example, during the winter months, if you go to Thar desert of India, what you will find, at night time the temperature will drop to 1 to 2 degrees Celsius, but during the daytime the temperature in that Thar desert itself, it will be in the range of somewhere around 20-25 degree Celsius. So what we find, the diurnal range of temperature is very high. 20-25 डिग्री एक ही दिन में टेम्परेचर चेंज हो रहा है, दैट इज वेरी हाई. ठीक है, जस्ट इमेजिन 20-25 डिग्री टेम्परेचर एक दिन में चेंज हो रहा है. ठीक है, सो एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ विच mechanical weathering will be taking place, and there will be exfoliation वगैरह, that is onion peeling will be taking place. ठीक है, so I've just put in this in detail format over here as well. You put in examples as well. Deflation hollow seen in Katara depression, then desert pavement wreck. ठीक है, then mushroom rocks, also called as rock pedestals. Then we have yardungs, which are nothing but long ridges which are more or less parallel to each other, and in between them we have gullies that are formed. Then zeugene is there, zeugene wherein there is a hard rock present on the top layer and soft rock on the lower layer. ठीक है, Then ventifacts, because of sand blasting, the rocks get cut into different angular shape. Then there are inselbergs present over here as well. ठीक है, inselbergs बहुत जगह पे होते हैं. So small residual hill that is left out. For example, we'll be finding a lot of inselbergs in a short period of time in the Aravalis. ठीक है, Aravallis are old relic mountains. ठीक है, and because of the continuous wind erosion, lying more or less in the desert area, because of the continuous wind and wind erosion and mechanical weathering, small hills will be left out. So these are called as the inselbergs. Okay, then geographical importance, as I've said, human angle hona chahiye. Climatic indicators, it reveals the past and the present wind regimes. For example, if I talk about the Thar Desert, now people say that the area around the Thar Desert, there is the desertification is increasing in this area. ठीक है, so over a period of time, Delhi, Haryana, Punjab, then western Madhya Pradesh region, northern Gujarat region, all these will find desertification taking place. So it will reveal the past and the present wind regimes and aridity condition. Then economic importance, desert area है, but ऐसा नहीं है कि भाई desert में कुछ मिलता ही नहीं है. ठीक है, the desert sand is ठीक है, उसमें भी आपको ढेर सारे मिनरल्स वगैरह मिल सकते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ आई टॉक अबाउट द अटाकामा डेजर्ट, ठीक है, वेरिंग वी फाइंड ब्राइन सैंड, ठीक है, इज प्रेजेंट देयर. वी फाइंड क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स आर प्रेजेंट ओवर देयर. ठीक है, देन यार्डंग्स इन्फ्लुएंस ट्रांसपोर्टेशन रूट्स. देन टूरिज्म पोटेंशियल है भाई, सफारी, डेजर्ट सफारी के लिए वगैरह आप लोग जाते हो वगैरह हो गए. ठीक है, सो टूरिज्म पोटेंशियल इज प्रेजेंट ओवर देयर. एंड इफ आई टॉक अबाउट इंडियाज डेजर्ट एरिया, ठीक है, so if irrigation is provided in this area, it can be utilized for cultivation as well. For example, we have the Indira Gandhi Canal on the in the around the Thar Desert, wherein good agricultural activities are taking place. वहाँ पे तरबूज की खेती वगैरह हो जाती है, wheat cultivation is taking place and all. So wherever there is the economic importance, definitely is there. Okay, रीजनल केस स्टडी, यू कैन पुट इन सम केस स्टडी. ठीक है, थार डेजर्ट के बारे में हियर इन आई हैव पुट इन. देन नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, फोर्थ सी, explain the need of soil conservation. Again question associated with soil. Explain the need of soil conservation and its remedial measures. ठीक है, see, now in the same paper, soil से related, they have asked three questions up till here, fourth C तक ही. So do not commit this mistake. I've done this, that Vasily Dukoschev. Okay, Jenny and Vasily Dukoschev. So utilizing the same name again and again, that creates a little bit of redundancy. You can avoid putting in name at such times then. सेम ही चीज बार बार पूछी जाती है. सो अकॉर्डिंग टू वैसिली डुकोशेव, सॉइल इज अ डायनामिक नेचुरल बॉडी, ठीक है, फॉर इकोसिस्टम स्टेबिलिटी एंड ऑल. ठीक है, देन नीड फॉर, explain the need for soil conservation, first part, and second part is the remedial measures. So what is the need for conserving the soil? First of all, increasing soil erosion. Just now I said that there is desertification taking place in and around the Thar desert. So that is nothing but increasing soil erosion. Because of the water and the wind action, we now will be having monsoon season, and because of that, there will be floods at some places. So there will be water and wind erosion taking place, and because of which the soil gets affected. Okay, the topsoil, organic topsoil upper layer gets washed away, and India loses billions of tons of soil every year. So there will be in some dry areas, there will be sheet erosion, there will be reels getting formed in the Chambal area, there will be gully erosion taking place in the southern part of the Shivaliks and all. Okay, so that will reduce the no, soil, that will increase the soil erosion. Okay, then there is declining soil fertility, excessive use of chemical fertilizer, reduce organic matter. For example, in the green revolution belt, this we have seen, there is increase in salinization and alkalization. Then food security concerns, need for soil protection. So food security concerns, we are already are I think 105 or 111 in the hunger index. ठीक है, so food security concerns, because of the increasing soil erosion, food security concerns वगैरह बढ़ जाएगा. ठीक है, so sustainable goals जो हमें अचीव करने हैं, no poverty, zero hunger, ठीक है, so those will get affected. Then ecological importance, ecological imbalance will be taking place. Soils have a lot of you can say microorganisms, earthworms वगैरह हो गए, lot of microorganisms. Then soil is a naturally breathing thing as well. ठीक है, it is storing lot of amount of carbon dioxide, so carbon sequestration वगैरह वगैरह देता है. So ecological balance will get affected. Then prevention of desertification, ठीक है, लैंड यूज एक्सेलरेट, लैंड डिग्रेडेशन वगैरह बढ़ जाएगा. Then second part which was asked, that is the remedial measures. The remedial measures to conserve the soil, that can be of different types. You can use some mechanical measures, that is creation of terrace, making of bunds. ठीक है, then contour agricultural activities, then following the slope of the agricultural land. ठीक है, ऐसा नहीं कि भाई जिस डायरेक्शन में स्लोप है उसी डायरेक्शन में इरिगेशन प्रोवाइड करो. ठीक है, provide the irrigation channels in a perpendicular direction to the slope of the land. So these are mechanical measures. Then there are some biological measures, that is afforestation is there. Then shelter belts, for example, around the Thar desert we have, I think, constructed a shelter belt of around 400 kilometer. ठीक है, 400 किलोमीटर लंबा पूरे झाड़ अफॉरेस्टेशन हैज बीन डन. ठीक है, झाड़ वगैरह लगाए गए हैं to stop the movement of these sand dunes and desertification. Then agroeconomic practices, crop rotation वगैरह practice करो, strip cropping वगैरह practice करो. ठीक है, utilization of sprinklers, utilization of drip irrigation. So all these measures. Then water management techniques वगैरह. ठीक है, creation of check dams, drip irrigation, just now I said. Use these measures for soil conservation. Now, if I talk about this particular answer, ठीक है, I said that do not use geographer name, same geographer name everywhere. Then this prevention of desertification, ecological importance. ठीक है, then these measures. This looks more of a, you can say, GS answer. ठीक है, so in this case, when in examination hall you feel that you have written a GS based answer, try add regional case study. ठीक है, you should immediately add some case study to make your answer little bit geographical. In case in examination it will definitely happen. ठीक है, ये होगा ही होगा कि एग्जाम में अचानक से जो आंसर लिखा पूरा का पूरा जीएस बेस्ड आंसर लिख दिया होगा. ठीक है, तो इंपॉर्टेंस वगैरह तो ये तो है. Just directly add a case study. Integrated watershed management in, here I have given an example of Radegan Siddhi, okay, which is just near to Pune. You can put in some another irrigation methods, for example the Ahar Mine irrigation system of Bihar, okay, which is a very good technique for even for soil conservation and water conservation as well. So you can put in that technique as well. Okay. So whatever regional case study, before examination it is important that you are collecting a set of such regional case study. In my lectures I definitely provide such regional case studies and I ask students to कि भाई लिख के रखो, ये definitely कहीं ना कहीं काम में आ जाते हैं. Okay, so this was again yet another question with associated with the soil conservation. ठीक है, human aspect भी add कर दिया and regional case study. Straightforward question था, no need to explain much in detail. ठीक है, so I'll stop here. Was, I think I've completed section A of paper 1. Soon I'll be taking about the other questions as well. In couple of days I'll complete the paper 1 and then we'll move to paper 2. Okay, paper 2 is very crucial because utilizing these concepts of paper 1 in paper 2 is must. So how to utilize that I'll be explaining in paper in upcoming videos. First I'll be completing the paper 1. ठीक है, चलेगा. So I hope this will be beneficial to you. You have any doubt, any questions? Because last time I missed some questions. ठीक है, चलेगा. Okay, so I'll end this session. Thank you.